Hey all, Josh here, and this is my review of Fox's Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief, the first in their hopefully upstart franchise of Rick Riordan's series of books, 5-book series. I'm sorry I sound a little frazzled, pardon, it is past midnight when I'm doing this review. I wanted to get this out preferably the night of or the morning of this movie is released. I went to see an advanced screening by Fox. I was lucky enough to obtain passes for said screening. And this is my review. Hope it all will let you make your own decisions right when the movie's out. I don't usually get to do this kind of thing, so definitely a plus. Okay, to start, is this movie worth seeing? Well, how's the story? I'm going to approach this from two perspectives. One is a general perspective, and two as an adaptation of the book. For fans of the book, I actually did a review of the book just 1 or 2 videos ago at least. So refer back to that, please, otherwise. But I think the story fares quite nicely. It's not subtle, but then again, the material never was subtle. I don't think there's really that much need for subtlety in a fun fantasy film such as this. I think it progressed along at a really great clip, breakneck pace, just like the book. I think they could have spent a little more time in the setup, but at the same time, I had a lot of fun. I was not missing any pertinent details. Everything was revealed very nicely, artfully, not overly so, of course, because this is directed by Chris Columbus. Like I said, not a very subtle man, but overall, the story was really good in this. You could clearly tell it is curbing a few things from Harry Potter, but I really don't see that as a negative thing. I mean, Harry Potter is a great franchise, and it is so influential that it is hard for it not to spawn any kind of offshoots whatsoever, any kind of, or inspire any more series made afterwards. I think that's rather unfair. That's like saying Lord of the Rings everything is a ripoff of Lord of the Rings. It's true that it influenced many, or mostly all of Western fantasy, but at the same time, do we have to hold everything to its standard? Not necessarily. I think this movie is best viewed as a fun fantasy adventure movie for just, frankly, everyone. I really enjoyed this movie, I'm not gonna lie. And that's not the prizes I won talking. Then more on that maybe later, but I think, honestly, I had a lot of fun. I went with another person. I was able to bring a guest, and we both really enjoyed it. There was kids there, but there was also college-age people like myself. There was older people, some people whom I presume were critics, as well as a few adults scattered in and about us. And everyone seemed to be having a lot of fun, not just at the event in itself, but just everyone had the right responses for the movie. Most of the time, it hit its marks. Almost all of its jokes actually work. And I will say that I think maybe the movie was kind of a little sexualized. I don't think that's really a problem. It didn't go to bring it to a point where it's really eyebrow raising. It was just noticeable. Something perhaps maybe smaller young kids you want to be wary of. But that's, even then, really, it's probably not much of a problem. One thing that might be is that this movie is actually kind of frightening at times. Now, not frightening to me, obviously, but I mean, for a kids movie, when they, well, I won't spoil anything, but later on in the movie, there are some rather frightening creatures and frightening scenes in it, which work really well in the context of the movie, but, for younger kids, it might be a little scary. Then again, the 2-year-old behind me didn't seem to mind. So, as an adaptation, I wanted to quickly say that I think this movie really does a great job doing what I think is what an adaptation should do: adapt the work. It is not the book exactly. There's a lot of things changed, and frankly, some characters taken out entirely. I'm not sure how it's going to play out in later movies if the story is vastly changed, having not read past the original book, though I do intend to review the second book in the Percy Jackson series, The Sea of Monsters, soon. Especially after I like this movie so much. Now, like I said, as an adaptation, they have streamlined it quite a bit, but the main story is still intact. All of the characters are generally who they are, despite their hair color. Fuck, I can't believe message boards upon message boards filled with how they changed the main female lead's hair color. Who gives a crap if the character is still there? Anyway, my point is, I think a lot of it really worked. There is some pop culture references, but they're nothing like Shrek, where they're just bashed into your head. A lot of it is mostly subtle, and most of it, while it may seem like a pop culture reference at the time, it will play off perfectly in the future. It's not detrimental to the film. So, overall though, how is the story? I think it works really well. It's nothing too deep, but it is a heck load of fun, and definitely something worth seeing on the big screen. It's just event after event after event, quick bursts of character dialogue and development, and it may seem a little formulaic and possibly somewhat like Harry Potter, although honestly I don't really see that many similarities. Besides the point, I think it works really well for what it is. Moving on with the characters, like I said, for an adaptation, they fit all of the character traits in from the book, and change some of the characters a little bit, but in my opinion, for the better. Not that the books are bad, but I do think it works much better in a visual and action movie format in this case. I do think Chris Columbus's decision to raise the characters' ages from the book's original ages was a great idea. Logan Lerman, particularly as Percy Jackson, really good job. Did remind me of Zac Efron a little, in a good way, not a bad way. He has that same kind of charisma to him. But yeah, I really like him. The person who played Grover, God, I can't remember his name. Sorry about that. But he did a really good job. Like I said, this is past midnight. You'll have to forgive me. And he did do a really good job, and it was quite funny throughout the movie. He was very effective as comic relief, and yet still able to hold his own. Otherwise, there's really not too much to say. All the gods are played by somewhat seasoned actors, not Shakespearean trained, but very talented. And while they may ham it up a little, I think it suits the material. Like I said, this isn't a very subtle movie, and the bluntness really doesn't feel like it's kicking you in the face like Transformers or anything like that. It feels, I think, just right. Just right. That's the best way I can describe this movie. It just feels right. Lastly, I want to get to the effects and the sound, and I really have nothing to complain about here. The sound is fantastic. The musical score is always swelling, which, frankly, I've seen a couple of pre-reviews up as well that kind of knock it a little for being too bombastic, but at the same time, this movie does move at a breakneck pace, so it's hard for it not to be that bombastic and continually swelling, I quote, because, frankly, stuff is always happening that needs the music to react that way. The movie could have been done a different way, but I'm really happy it was done this way because it's just a lot of fun, and the effects all they do is bolster this, because there are some really great set pieces in this. You can tell at a couple points, maybe this movie didn't have millions upon millions upon millions of dollars behind it, but nothing really noticeable. Later on in the movie, particularly, the effects are just fantastic, I gotta say. I mean, I was really impressed with some of the vistas they got. The creatures are also imaginative. I like the way they portrayed old myths in modern times. And a lot of the things they mentioned from the book are actually worked a lot more in here and allow for some nice visual sequences, particularly the climax of the movie with the main villain, whom I won't spoil. And it really added a much-needed action climax to the movie that I don't think would have translated as well if they had just adapted the book straight up. So overall, like I said, great movie. Honestly, go see it. I really hope it's up sort of a franchise. It's not the best thing, but I had a lot of fun, and I would be perfectly willing to go see another one of these anytime because this is the type of movie I thrive off of. It's not incredibly deep, but you just can't help but smile. Maybe even cheer at the end. Go figure. I don't think this will do as well as at the box office as I'm hoping it will be, but you never know. I suppose maybe the marketing with Chris Columbus's name in the trailers and Harry Potter will do the trick, or maybe it might work against it. What with the Harry Potter similarities, we'll see though. Lastly, actually, I did want to say I totally destroyed this free screening here, and I don't mean like literally destroyed. I mean I won every contest imaginable. I won a double pass to get there. I got a free poster upon arrival, and they had a raffle in which I won another free poster as well as a DS game. I didn't even have a DS, but I took it away from those children, and that made my night. Anyway, everyone go see Percy Jackson, the Olympians, the Lightning Thief. Whew, that's a long title. But I really do hope there is a sequel. It's a lot of fun, a great matinee. I certainly recommend it for all ages. It's good for the whole family, but don't feel silly going to it by yourself or with any of your 20-something teenagers. It doesn't matter. Go see it. It's a lot of fun. Percy Jackson.